Thank you, all of you, for the different satsang groups so far from Ottawa and Washington, D.C. group. It was such a pleasure and so nice to see everybody participating and putting such a nice program. Now, Swami Chidananda will talk. Before that, I will give a small introduction of Swami Chidananda. He is not new to our global satsang, and he has been always very graceful to agree whenever a request has been made, with no strings attached. Even some of them have been almost at the last minute or a week just before the event. And he has never said no. And our humble pranams to him. Swami Chidananda has been a speaker, writer, and teacher of spiritual topics for nearly 3 decades. He is the founder and chief resource person for Powai Forum, a non-governmental organization engaged in dialogue on human values, promotion of spiritual studies, and serving all life forms. At the age of 23, he was inspired by the eloquent discourses of the famous Vedanta teacher, Swami Chinmayananda. He put aside a career in electronics engineer and went for the study of the Upanishads. He studied at his guru's ashram in Mumbai between 1984 and 86, and thereafter served the master's institution, the Chinmaya Mission, for 16 years, between 1986 and 2002. He taught philosophy at Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, Kochi, and California, USA. He spoke at many academic, social, and business centers in India and North America. His thought evolved through coming in contact with the works of several great thinkers, and notably among them being Sri Ramana Maharshi and Jiddu Krishnamurti. He held executive positions between 2003 and 2010 at Rajghat Education Center, which is the chapter at Varanasi of Krishnamurti Foundation, where he was involved in certain projects of education and rural service. Since 2009, he has been a member of the KFSI Governing Society. Since 2013, Salom in Himachal Pradesh has been his base, and recently he has moved near between Pune and Mumbai, from where he travels to various places on lecture tours. He carries on his pursuit of truth while sharing his observations with interested audiences through talks and writing. He often conducts seminars and workshops in a number of themes. Swami Chidananda has been a Vedanta teacher for more than 3 decades. He was powerfully drawn to the teachings of Bhagavan. He, however, went on to study the Upanishads and has been available for various seekers. I request Swamiji to speak now, and he's going to speak on the Ramana Gita. Hari Om, Swamiji.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. I join all of you on this auspicious occasion in bowing down before Shri Ramana Maharshi, seeking his grace and blessings upon every one of us on this arduous path of self-inquiry. I will be sharing some thoughts on work and wisdom, and yes, a certain shloka from Ramana Gita will especially be an important part of this presentation, But before I get down to that shloka of Sri Ramana Gita, I will be sharing some thoughts springing forth from Upadeshasara and Saddarshanam also. To say just a few words about the topic we have chosen, work and wisdom, this karma and jnana has been a great debate in philosophical circles, especially in Advaita Vedanta. Adi Shankaracharya maintained the position that it's only through jnana that one gets liberated. And it seemed that karma was put down or criticized. But all of us are into karma, however much we may try to reduce it or go away from it. And like in so many other matters, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi throws very precious light on this dichotomy, this twofold situation, whether we must go for karma or we must leave it and go for jnana and so on. And Bhagavan has very clearly stated that by fancying renunciation, no one can get renunciation. No one can walk away from the entanglements of work, action, karma by merely wishing for it or even declaring to the world, I am going to leave karma from tomorrow and so on. That's ridiculous. Therefore, in this presentation, I will share with you some thoughts which I borrow right away from the works of Bhagavan, in which he tells us what actually binds us, what actually causes a certain sense of our hands being tied, our being helpless, and so on. So, on this auspicious occasion where we are observing Bhagavan's Aradhana day, we now get down into a little bit of deliberation on karma and jnana. In the second slide that we are presenting now, we will show how the issue of karma and when it binds, when it doesn't bind, etc., is taken up. Bhagavan has touched upon it in numerous dialogues on many pages of the celebrated work Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. We find certain wonderful insights. But here I am now drawing your attention to a very important verse right at the beginning of Upadeshasara, where the point is when karma binds us. Sometimes we know that karma can bind us. What is more, karma generally binds us. Not only it can, but it does. But then, as the third bullet here shows, those who have an eye to see the subtlety of the matter realize that if we are careful, karma does not have to bind us. It can bind us, it does bind us generally, but it doesn't have to bind us because what makes us bound is actually our attachment to karma, especially our attachment to results of karma. Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi was and is known for conveying great wisdom in just a few words without compromising with accuracy or the quality of communication. In the very early days of my getting to know Maharshi and his teachings, noted that his teachings have a mathematical precision, a crispness, like a simple formula in maths or in physics has tremendous significance. Maharshi's words are so crisp, just a few words, but then we can go on pondering the teaching. In the second verse of Upadeshasara, by the way, Upadeshasara is written in such a short meter. I am yet to come across any other work in the Vedanta or elsewhere which is shorter than the meter of Upadeshasara. Kriti mahodadhau patana karanam palamashashvatam gati nirodhakam. Kriti is synonymous with karma. Many kinds of karma. You and I are engaged in varieties of action. Action, work, karma, kriti are synonyms. And Bhagavan says it is a huge, vast ocean. And what is sad is overwhelming majority of us are not only fallen into this ocean, we are drowning. More we try to get out, more it seems we are going deeper into the water. And now, in a very pointed manner, in this particular shloka I am quoting, Bhagavan says, the problem is not with our being in the midst of karma, but psychologically our attachment to phalam. Phalam, which may be favorable or unfavorable. If the result of certain action is unfavorable, we are immediately unhappy. If it is favorable, because ashashvatam, it doesn't last long. It's only a matter of time that we find ourselves as unhappy as before, if not worse. Therefore, our attachment to I must win, I must be praised, my senses should be gratified, etc. A certain emotional insistence is gati nirodhakam. It actually impedes our spiritual progress. In our heart of hearts, all of us want to be free. All of us want to have unconditional love. All of us want to move about without any burden on our minds. But the ground reality is, alas, there is hardly anybody under the sun who has that kind of freedom. So, against our wish for all freedom, we go about our work in such an attitude that increasingly binds us. So, we must let go of our attachment. But how? So, if attachment to results binds, what liberates us is the next question. So, let's see how in another shloka, in the next slide, we will see Bhagavan's guidance on how we can be freed. The next slide, please. Thank you. So in the same Upadesha Sara, very next verse, beautifully puts it. It not only says detachment frees us, but how to get detachment. Ishwararpitam Nechaya Kritam Chitta Shodhakam Mukti Sadhakam. So, in order that we are detached, and what does detachment mean? We are no more insisting upon gratifying our own ego. You and I should develop a certain sharp attention to what we are actually seeking. Somebody garlands us, we are very happy. It's not because we love flowers, not because that garland is nicely made, but through that gesture, which is very common in India and some other places, I guess, uh, through that gesture, we understand that we have been put on a pedestal. We have been recognized as worthy of honor. Therefore, not the flower, not its fragrance, not its color, not its shape, garland shape, but our ego gets gratified. And the ego will not be gratified if, in the beginning itself, we are not seeking such felicitation, such honor. Therefore, in small and big situations, in situations of daily life, can we be a little careful? Let's do our best, but let's not give undue importance to what we get out of it. Everyone would say this is easier said than done. How can we let go of desire for recognition, desire for praise, and sometimes desire for sense gratification? When we were children, we would attend pujas and we would wait for ending of the puja, end of puja, when the prasad would be given. We are eager to enjoy the laddu, the payasam, right? Sense gratification. But later on, many other forms of expectation arise in our bosom. So the second bullet, which straight away takes the point from the shloka, says, let us do karma, not to please our ego, but to please God. And as per our temperament, some of us may do karma not directly pleasing God, but pleasing God's creation. That is indirectly pleasing God Himself. So to serve God's creation, Ishwarasya Srishti, then how do we do? We have heard beautiful statements. Jana Seva is Janardana Seva. Nara Seva is Narayana Seva. Generally, we memorize all these beautiful statements and do not pay much attention to bring that in our spirit, in our outlook towards work. So, Ishvara Arpitam. Just as sometimes we do things to please our mother or our father, or if we have deeply appreciated some teacher in our school or college days, or if we have deeply appreciated some teacher in our school or college days, then when we go to town, we would go out of our go meet our teacher who taught us many years ago at the college, make a present, give him a present, show respect and so on. And if he is happy or if she is very happy with us, then we too are happy. We go out of our way to greet our teachers of the past, not so much for our own pleasure, for him to be happy. And if he is delighted, that of course will make us also happy. So is the case with service, so is the case with puja, with japa, and so on. Therefore, Maharshi especially says to us, offer the phala, karma phalam to God, but it is emphasized like that because it's easier generally to offer the gross one, to offer the subtle one, which is sometimes not visible to us, is difficult. Phalasakti is more easily visible. Phalatyaga is relatively easier. So offering karma and phalam really to God liberates us. The words in the shlokas put it so crisply. Chitta shodakam, nishkama karma purifies our mind. Chitta shodaka, purifying. Mukti sadhakam paves the way to our liberation. In this way, work and wisdom being our topic, we now are fairly clear what kind of work, especially done with what attitude, entangles us. We drag on when we are so dependent on fruits of action. We drag on with some hurt, with some regret, with some sorrow about not getting what we wanted, and some jealousy sometimes that somebody else got what we had wanted. That is bondage. Bondage is nothing but living in agitation. Freedom is nothing but living in an unburdened manner. Mukti sadhakam. Now we will examine this topic of karma and jnana. Jnana is, on par with moksha. As jnana arises in us, our swarupa jnana, our atma jnana, we get liberated. So there are hurdles on the path to this letting go of wrong or false attitudes. So in the fourth slide, let's now take a look at what these two hurdles are. There are two hurdles which are on two levels. One is, as we already touched upon it, desire for particular results. It could be as gross as material objects, gold and property and beautiful cars, or so many possessions. It could be so gross as physical objects, or the result of some work that we do and which we very much desire could be subtle. I should be talked well of. Somebody gave up a lot of things, went to the Himalayas, was living a very austere life. But when he came to know through somebody who came from his village in South India, he came to know that people in the village which he left and came to Himalayas were talking about him as an escapist. And it hurt him so badly. He had sleepless nights. I have renounced and I am living an austere life, but how sad that people in Kumbakonam are saying I am an escapist. I ran away out of inability to live properly and so on. This is very bad. Then his guru said to him, hold on. The problem is not what your people in Kumbakonam are saying. The problem is, even after so many years, you are attached to the image of yours. You are attached to what people in your hometown think of you. That is a subtle attachment. You are hoping that everybody in the town would praise you. One man from our town renounced everything. He lives in a small hut now in the Himalayas, taking 2 simple meals, etc. So you are hoping, you are attached to a possible result of your so-called renunciation. And when it did not come, you are so hurt, you are sad. So the results after which we go could be subtle like image. Sometimes some of us do some good things, not for those things themselves, but for a certain praise that we might get from people. So, phala asakti, But on a subtler level, Maharshi Ramana touches upon it at many places. The very sense of I am the doer. I am doing, I am enjoying. Kartrutva bhava and bhoktrutva bhava are deep-rooted notions in our psyche, and they cause continued bondage. So we have said before, but let's say once more, what do we call bondage? To make it simple, it is sorrow, it is agitations, it is sense of inadequacy. I'm not okay, something is missing in me, incompleteness, and so on and so forth. I said to make matters easy, we are putting it this way. Otherwise, in traditional language, bondage is being born again and again. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jatare shayanam. Rebirth and moksha, freedom also is said to be, in traditional language, cessation of rebirth. They are also right. I fully believe in them. I go by them. But for a quick and easy, simple understanding of bondage and freedom in our day-to-day life, if we move on with certain sense of I'm okay. Yeah, yesterday I lost ₹1,000,000. I'm still okay. Or, last week, my God, my own son-in-law insulted me in front of all. But I'm okay. Suppose one is able to genuinely feel I'm okay, I'm complete, and I feel love for all with no condition or no cause, and I feel compassion for those who are suffering. So these are the hallmarks of freedom. Therefore, we are saying here, towards freedom, the difficulty, the obstacle is our entanglement in karma. Many of us go on thinking, once this responsibility is over, once that work is over, even scholars like me think, once I finish writing this book, once I complete 1,000 lectures on Upanishads, I'm going to just meditate, some fancy, foolish thoughts really. But we feel that we are held back, we are caught, and that bondage doesn't so easily get loosened. So the two hurdles on a grosser level, attachment to results, lots of expectations, and on a subtler level, you may not believe it is a thought, I am the doer. But for that thought, the science of this Adhyatma Vidya uncompromisingly says, but for that thought, there is no doership. You think you are a doer, and there you go, you are a doer. And thanks to self-inquiry, thanks to surrender, thanks to love of illumined souls like Maharshi himself, Guru Bhakti, Guru Prema, that preeti towards the feet of Guru, things will happen. That thought which otherwise was holding us so strongly gets loosened. And in the absence of that thought, I am the doer and I am the enjoyer. And enjoyer includes sufferer. If it's a bad fruit, I suffer. If it's a tasty fruit, I enjoy. So it is a thought. Unbelievable. Can a thought make us so miserable? We would say there is nothing else than thought which makes you miserable. And there is nothing other than right thought, right thinking, right seeing, which can set you free. Normally, we would not imagine that it is our thoughts that cause misery to us. Therefore, spiritual education is to remove erroneous seeing, remove false values, false thinking, bad outlooks. When they are removed, naturally our peace, the joy which always was within us, comes forth, manifests itself. When the dark clouds move away, we don't have to say the clouds have moved away. Very soon the sun should be coming. The sun is shining in the sky. The dark clouds move away, the sun becomes visible in all glory. Therefore, in this Adhyatma Vidya, especially on deeper levels, it is more of negation, it is more of dismissal of erroneous thoughts. So let's take a look at these two hurdles once more. In the next slide, we go to again examine the first hurdle, though we talked about it, philosophy, attachment to results of fruits. So what we called earlier Ishwararpanam or Ishwararpitam, the outlook behind it, the way we see things behind that is, may God be pleased with whatever I do. Let that come from within us with all strength. Then we cannot do adharma. Then we cannot do wrong things because we are very interested in God being happy with us. Will we do some unrighteous things at all? Of course, our vasanas are too strong, but definitely, even as we bring remembrance of God more and more, our vasanas, if not getting eliminated, will get weakened. I would say from my own experience through many years, certain wrong tendencies in us don't instantly go, even when with tears in eyes we pray God, please free me from these wrong ways. They won't go instantly, but no prayer is a waste. Our prayer may not be answered right today or tonight, but a day will come when those prayers, those submissions, those very sincere requests to God will all bear fruit. In fact, in pujas, there is a very appropriate sankalpa vakya. When you do worship, you must have heard this line or you yourself would have sung it if you are doing the puja. Mamopatta samasta duritakshaya dwara parameshwara prityartham imam pujam karishye. I do this ritual of worship of a Shiva Linga perhaps or Shalagrama, whatever. Why do I do it? By this karma, may Parameshwara be pleased. So bring that spirit in everything else we do. A teacher teaching a high school class can bring that spirit. He can say or she can say, may God be pleased. First of all, God will be pleased if children are benefited. May my teaching, my lecturing, my writing something on the blackboard or whiteboard be so clear and so uplifting to these children. And when the children are happy, God will be. Whereas if one does not have such teachings coming towards one from great masters like Maharshi, what will happen? A teacher goes to the classroom and teaches probably quite well, but in her mind she entertains the thought, I hope very soon the management will get to know how well I teach. I hope very soon the management will give me a promotion. And presently the principal is no good. Probably in 3 years, the management will ask me to be the principal of the school. Ha, it's all self-gratification. I will perhaps get the president's medal. There are various honors in every field. So if one harbors thoughts of receiving this honor or that honor, that is the opposite of Ishwararpana. Be aware of all those. But primarily, we don't even say you should not have any desire of that kind. That's very impractical. You may have some desire. But primarily, can you, in this example, hope for the students to be happy? Students are the creation, Ishwarasya Srishti. And through the students, may God, the Srishti Karta, be happy. Then my promotion, then my becoming principal, then my getting the president's medal for best teachers of the year and so on. Okay, then let them also be in the list, no problem. May all life forms created by God be happy through my karma. Then you don't seek anything at all? No, I do seek. The science says I get inner purification. Therefore, the shloka we read earlier, Chitta Shodakam, inner purification. And therefore, we must aspire, no matter how wicked we have been, how lusty, greedy, short-tempered, etc., we have been, doesn't matter. Can we send a sincere prayer here and now? May God bless me to let go of my craving for the gratification on the levels of the senses, emotions, and for image consciousness. That's a very subtle one. Many people who have given up a lot of other things find it hard to give up the desire for being regarded as great, good souls, etc. So, as simple as this, the first hurdle is attachment to what I get, what is in it for me. No wonder John F. Kennedy also, in his commencement address, echoed this principle of not seeking something for oneself, rather seeking something for the totality. Ask not what the country can do for you, he said. Ask what you can do for the country. That is what is said by Sri Krishna as Karmanyeva Adhikaraste Maphaleshu. There is a beautiful Dhana Sloka in Ramana Chatvarimshat where the Shloka says, Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi understood the wonderful, eloquent teachings through words of Vishnu Khagavahana, and Bhagavan had fully understood the profound silence of Shiva Vrishavahana. For last 30 years, I have included that little shloka in my daily prayers while praying to Bhagavan Maharshi. Kathaya nijaya kalusham harata karuna nidhinaruna shaila jusha Bhagavahana bhashita tattvavida Vrishavahana mauna rahasya bhrata. That shloka connects to the line in the 10th verse of Ramana Chatvarimshat, where the completion is given. Ramanena sanathamidam bhuvanam. This earth has found a great guide, a great master in Sri Ramana, who Khagavahana Bhashita Tattvavida, who knew what Khagavahana, Mahavishnu, that is Sri Krishna, spoke, Bhashita. Vrishavahana Mauna Rahasya Brata, and he not only understood, he had it in his personality. Many a time Bhagavan sat silently like Vrishavahana in Dakshinamurti form. All of you know that. And by him, the earth is blessed. So, you and I have to pray. And when we pray, definitely something happens. So, our craving, which at this moment may look like unshakable. Oh my, I am made like this. Till my last breath, I will be craving for money and pleasure. Oh, sometimes such a thought comes to us. No, it's not true. If grace of God, if grace of Bhagavan descends upon us, and we should be ready for that, then it will come. Overnight, we may change also. For heaven's sake, we should not have our own theories of when our impurities go. The impurities can go in a jiffy, or they may take time, we don't know, but we should not bother about that. We must concern ourselves with being more intense in our submissions to the Lord. Now, let's go to the next slide and take a look at the second hurdle. We already said what it is. It is the sense of I am a doer, karta, bhokta. And it's hard to imagine that this I am a doer is not a truth at all. It's a fundamental illusion. You and I actually are not doing anything. Prakriti is doing it. Bhagavad Gita says it at many places. Especially in the fifth chapter, there are two shlokas. Even from the point of view of Sanskrit grammar, I am fond of it because in those two shlokas, a number of present participles come in a string. It says, Pashyan, Shanvan, Sprishan, Jigran, Ashnan, Gachan, Swapan, Shwasan, Pralapan, Visarjan, Granhan, Unmishan, Nimishan Napi, Naiva Kinchit Karomi, Yuktaha Manyeta, Indriyani, Indriyartheshu Vartante, Iti Dharayan. A wise sadhaka or sadhika, there is no gender issue in spirituality, lady or man. A sadhaka for simplicity of language, let's say, a sadhaka who has reached greater heights of contemplation constantly and realizes the truth becomes somewhat clear. Glimpses of it come to him. What is that truth? Hey, really I am not doing anything. Indriyani, eyes, ears, nose, etc., or hands, legs, etc. Five karmendriyas, five jnanendriyas, they are engaging in the objects of them, of theirs. Whether Pashyan, Shanvan, Sprishan, Jigran, that is, while seeing, while hearing, while smelling, while touching, while getting up, while getting down, while opening eyes, while closing eyes, a string of present participles. But it's so hard for us to believe. When it was disclosed by some scientists that the earth is not the center of the universe, but the sun is the center of a certain solar system. Earth goes around the sun. There was a lot of opposition. People could not accept it. They thought it was madness to make that statement. Like that, there are umpteen cases in science and outer world. But in the inner world of psychology, this is an unbelievable truth. We are not the doer. We are that awareness. But somehow mysteriously the ego rises. Therefore, in a very scintillating verse of Saddarshanam, Ulladhanapadu, Sri Ramana Maharshi says, if one thinks I am doing, then that becomes the truth for that person and he becomes answerable. Or he becomes, caught in the karma phala. Look at the simple and nice logic. If you think or if you imagine you are the doer, then it's like if you pull one leg of a table, other three legs also will come towards you. Karomi karmeti naro vijanan vadhyo bhavet karma phalancha bhoktum. You can't help but suffer the results. Once in a while, enjoy the good results. So what are we to do? Maharshi Ramana diagnoses the problem and prescribes the medicine in the second half of this shloka. Vichara dhuta yadi kartrata chet karmatrayam nashyati sa eva muktihi. He is the champion of vichara, questioning with some guidance, of course, of some basics. Otherwise, the question, who am I, may not make sense to somebody. One has to study a little bit. Therefore, Bhagavan himself so compassionately translated into Tamil Viveka Chudamani, Atma Bodha, and some other works. He advised the devotees, disciples to study some Tamil works also, some selected works of this Brahma Vidya were recommended by him, because otherwise one asks, who am I? But one doesn't know the significance of Nanyar. Therefore, with some study giving the basics, but without getting lost in books and books or grammar or logic, etc., we are required to conduct inquiry. Inquiry can eliminate this erroneous notion. Vichara dhuta. Dhuta means vichara is inquiry. Through self-inquiry, dismissed, thrown away. What? Kartrata. It's a wrong thinking, that's all. It's an erroneous notion. Though in this avatara, Sri Maharshi did not study Shankara's commentaries and all that. Those of us who study Shankara's commentaries on Gita and Upanishads and then study Bhagavan's teachings are astounded how all the teachings of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi tally so well, no conflict, no contradiction. In fact, they throw precious light on Shankaracharya's commentaries on the Prasthanatraya, Gita, Upanishads, and Brahma Sutras. So it is an erroneous notion. Adi Shankara calls it adhyasa. It's an erroneous notion. And he says to remove this adhyasa, where we take ourselves to be what we are not. We take ourselves to be, in the present context, the doer. It's the personality that does, but we are the personality. To mistake a rope for a snake is a simple illustration for adhyasa. To mistake our true nature for this personality which has doership, enjoyership, etc. is adhyasa, and the inquiry, who am I, can weaken and finally throw away. Thus, vichara dhuta yadi kartrata chet karmatrayam. To bring in a little technical language, so-called sanchita karma, agami karma, prarabdha karma, some three kinds of karma, all of them are eliminated. How beautiful. So the second hurdle, which is deeper, can also be removed. Therefore, you and I should not hastily run away from work, but we should work towards being free of too many responsibilities in a very dharmic way. Whatever comes across to us as our duty, whatever our conscience says, hey, this is my duty. I owe this to my wife. I owe this to my brother. I owe this to the company which is giving me my salary. I owe this. So all of us in our bosom have a sense of kartavya. It keeps reviewed and modified eventually. But at a given point of time, something comes across as our duty, leave alone somebody telling us, our own conscience says it. Then, for heaven's sake, we must perform that kartavya, that duty, very sincerely to the best of our ability. As we conserve our energy, as we don't let our energy get dissipated in unnecessary areas, and with that energy conserved, properly protected, we do our duties well. The good news is our work on its own becomes less. In contrast, if we hurry up with reducing our work, I'm sorry, sometimes the work gets multiplied. You fall from the frying pan into fire. You say, I was happier before. Some people run away from work to join an ashram. Then the ashram also is disturbed and they are also disturbed. So they really did not, come upon a certain maturity, certain inner change. They just joined an ashram. So, nishkama karma. Rather than leaving karma itself, we must become aware of some hidden motives in us and see their falsity and then let go of those improper expectations. Now, in the next verse and in the next slide, I enter the illustration first, and then I enter the shloka from Ramana Gita. This is one of my favorite illustrations that I got from Bhagavan's literature. Bhagavan talked about a lady selling vegetables, and those days, maybe 1930s or something, the trains were very new, especially in that part of the country where she was living. And with a basket full of vegetables, the lady boarded a locomotive train for the first time in her life. She could not believe that such a long vehicle with probably 1,000 people was moving quite fast. So, rather awestruck, she goes in, and to her delight, she gets a seat also on a bench. She sits, but now comes the interesting part. She is still carrying the basket of vegetables on her head. Fellow passengers say to her, Akka, please put that down. Put the basket down because you are perhaps going to that other town, which is say, at least a half an hour away. Keep it down. And she says, Oh, no, 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 no. The train is taking my weight, my burden. As far as this basket goes, let me bear it. Wonderful, packed with humor. And we wish we had audio recording, and we have some videos, of course, of Bhagavan, but not audios, I guess. We wish how he had said in Tamil or English or whatever, such humorous things, how he laughed. Okay, he said, whether she keeps the basket on her head or leaves it on the ground, the train anyhow is taking the burden. You don't have to carry. Likewise, this kartrutva is an unnecessary thing. Whether you have kartrutva or through inquiry and spiritual understanding, let go of it. Actions were going on, are going on, will go on. Karma takes place. Then who will do if I am not the doer? Who imagined you are the doer? The doer was always God's will. God did it through you. Prakriti, call it Prakriti, call it Ishvara, call it some other karma, momentum of a certain past action expressing itself as the present action or phenomenon. Definitely, you are not the doer. So whether the lady puts the basket on her head or on the ground, she is not actually the main one to take the burden. Train is taking the burden. So let me take the burden of this basket on my own head. The train is after all taking the load of me, my burden. It's such a silly thing. So if we imagine we are doing, which doesn't mean, as we have already clarified, we should hurriedly leave everything and run away. You can't run away like that. It is through understanding, through surrender. Thus, Kartrutva is an illusion which is easier said than really understood. We may intellectually understand it through illustration, stories, and so on. But for us to see it as a reality, yeah, I am not the doer. I can feel it. I can experience my not being the doer. That is a long journey. Now, in almost the last slide, we enter a shloka in next slide, which especially answers another question. Today we may be careful. Okay, somehow we are on alert. But what about our past sins? What we did in the past? And this shloka from Ramana Gita is so reassuring. In fact, I selected this as the main topic. Then I built up the topic with other things. Otherwise, for many years, this shloka has been a source of reassurance for me myself. What is reassuring? Sometimes we panic a little. Sometimes we feel, oh my, how in lives, many lives, we have hurt many people. We have been unfair to many people. Or we have been unjust to ourselves. Overeating or not doing exercise, etc. We jeopardize our own health. So the wrong things that happened at our hands would have hurt others, would have hurt us. But what do we do now? This simple shloka says, starting now, starting today, do Sukrita. If you do Sukrita, that Sukrita, you have a word in third line, Hanti. It destroys, it removes the effects of past sins. Either literally removes or by helping you rise to a higher level of consciousness, you will be able to bear with whatever your prarabdha brings to us. You are 72 now, and maybe at the age of 76, you get some terrible ailment. But if you do more and more of punya karma, then when that ailment comes to you because of the past karma, you are already so balanced. Some physical pain here and there, but at least no psychological suffering. A bout of pain morning, a bout of pain in the evening. In between, when there is no physical pain, your mind is very quiet. People come to see you to console you. You console them and send them back. How nice it would be if you have such inner silence, inner grace. Such inner grace, quietude, coming to terms with life, right? That can be the result of Sukrita. So this shloka goes, Yat karma sukritam proktam mano vakaya sambhavam tattu karmantaram hanti mano vakaya sambhavam. Manaha, mind, vak, speech, kaya, physical deeds with the body. So, in thought, word, and deed, as the English expression goes. So, in our years that have gone by in this life and in previous lives, we all have done things through our speech, through our thought, through our deed, such things which we should not have done. We regret, but what can be done? What can be done? That's the question. Today, speak good words, kind words, true words. Today, think good thoughts, and today onwards, do good things. So the good things you do, karmantaram is the bad karma, anti. So there is a whole lot of karma management to be done, through which chitta shuddhi comes, then wisdom dawns upon us. Every one of us is the inheritor of this great spiritual heritage, spiritual legacy of masters like Sri Ramana Maharshi, Bhagavan. Therefore, no matter how many thousands of times we bow down for Ramana Maharshi, that is not enough. We are grateful. In this last slide, we bow down before Sri Arunachala, Om Namah Shivaya, Arunachala Shiva, and Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana. Namaste. I welcome some questions or comments at this point.
Hari Om Swamiji. I got a few questions. I will. This was put by the devotee. The first question is how to adapt Bhagavan Ramana's advice of Nishkarma Kama in today's busy world, especially by the younger aspirants.
Right, by younger people. Yeah. Yes, for younger people, it comes across as more difficult because we often say it's such a competitive world now. There's explosion of information. So many new things have come up, and young people will surely find it hard to grapple with it all. So, how to adopt this teaching of Nishkama Karma? The good news is Nishkamatva, that is being free of I, me, and my, or putting personal needs above others' needs, is not something much related to the quantity of work and other external details. It's always possible to make a mid-course correction. Our boat is going in the wrong direction. We discover it. We may slow down and change the direction. So young people too should be a little bit, not much, a little bit in touch with wise people. Satsanga, they call it, right? A little bit in touch with, if not some swamis or gurus who come to the town, they can be in touch with maybe an uncle or aunt of theirs, if not mother and father, a grandfather. Somebody in the family is always a little wise. You must identify. The young person should identify, and a little advice that they may get from those pious people should be taken seriously. So they should let go of some bad tendencies. I remember when I was in college in some physics laboratory, etc. Three of us were asked to do an experiment, and on some occasion, three of us, and the other two are so well built, they would not let me, put my hand upon the experimental setup. So then once one very nice teacher came and said, I have come here not to tell you how to conduct the experiment, but you three should equally share this business of doing the experiment. And the other two boys who were taller and better built than me took the advice. In fact, that teacher had earned the respect of all of us. So they both said to me, sorry, we didn't let you, handle this experimental setup. Now we both will stand back. You please do and see how it works. So, small corrections. Therefore, in a number of scenarios, the youngsters should see they should ask themselves two questions. What is the selfish way of going about this? And what is the way where we consider others also? Then the second question's answer would be the way out.
The second question, Swamiji, what evidence does the aspirant see in everyday life to encourage one to keep striving in the spiritual path?
What is the second word? What? Encourage.
What evidence does
Evidence,
what evidence does the aspirant see in everyday life to encourage one to keep striving in the spiritual path?
Actually, that's a very interesting question. Sometimes the opposite evidence comes. When you and I try to be spiritual, many people make fun of us. They will say, look, this is a Gandhi among us, or some such word they use. The society generally, in the beginning, does not let anybody walk the spiritual path easily. But I would say, if we have some patience and we don't practice spirituality in a foolish way, but in an intelligent way, very soon people will come around. Evidence will be, we will see how much of stress and strain we can avoid by being spiritual. For example, the teaching in this session itself, being selfless. We'll see that if we are selfless, a lot of heartburn goes away from us. Whereas if we are very attached to personal gratification, every time we don't get what we desire, we will be having sleepless nights, we will have so much heartburn. So the best evidence of the rewards of spiritual striving is increased equanimity, increased freedom from heartburn that we can experience. That is Chitta Shuddhi. Chitta Shuddhi can be experienced as we strive on the spiritual path. That's the evidence of growth.
The third and last question, Swamiji. If Nishkama Karma and Gnana Yoga take one to the same goal, is it not enough to keep doing the Nishkama Karma and leave the rest to Bhagavan?
Yes, this is a very sensible question. And I would say both yes and no to it. Yes, because not all are required to study all kinds of scriptures. Intellectual exercises are not required for everybody. Therefore, I would say yes, Nishkama Karma alone is enough, because when through Nishkama Karma, someone rises in mental purity, the essential inputs, the bare minimum essential input of the so-called jnana come to the person. God himself or some saintly person comes along and maybe spending couple of hours with this person, gives to this person, him or her, the so-called essential jnana yoga. That is enough. Like the example is given, one burning matchstick is enough to set on fire a huge heap of grass, dry grass. So a saint came along, nobody saw you meeting him, nobody saw him meeting you, but you are like dry grass, thanks to the Nishkama Karma. And the saint did teach you a little bit of Tattvamasi or such things, Jnana Yoga. That's enough. If saint were disappeared and you are thrown on the lap of the highest wisdom. But I say no also, because among us, there are quite a few, maybe 3 out of 10. I regard myself as that kind. I am one of the 3 out of 10 who, by temperament and by makeup or the way God has made us, we are intellectual. We need to read books. We need to deliver talks. We need to write. We need to apply our mind to so many questions. And to those of us who are made that way by God, Jnana Yoga is a must for our own benefit, because our mind is restless. and then for benefiting Loka Seva. That is our Swadharma. Therefore, my summary answer to this question is whether one needs Jnana Yoga or not has to be answered through an honest introspection how one's personality is. If one finds that I'm not so intellectual, I don't get all these questions, I don't appreciate or I don't feel comfortable with so much of philosophy, then one doesn't have to go to the so-called formal Jnana Yoga. Once more, I would say the essential Jnana Yoga is a must, but that will come to the person with a pure mind. If one discovers upon doing honest self-inquiry, not self-inquiry, honest introspection, that even if all the scriptures say no philosophy is required, I would like to read a book why it is not required. Some of us are like that. So, but nothing, we have to be true to the way, our Swadharma. Therefore, the elaborate Jnana Yoga, you read Upanishads, you read Gita, you read Viveka Chudamani, then you read what you call commentaries, and you read many works of Bhagavan, Ramana, Maharshi, and works on Maharshi by devotees. That is not required for 7 out of 10. So 7 out of 10 can improve themselves in seva, in nishkama karma, bhakti, and the essential jnana will come to them. 3 out of 10, people like me, have to. We become teachers, we become writers, we become, if not, teachers on the stage, etc., we become moderators in group discussion. We sometimes become such aunts or uncles, who can verbalize some advice to a young person. A high school girl is very disturbed. So the 3 out of 10, who are intellectuals, we not only see the situation, we can sit and speak, narrate a story, give some example, and give some logic, this, that. If the boy or girl also is receptive to it, otherwise it could be, driving that person nuts. So, so the answer is both. To a large number, Nishkama Karma it takes one to the very threshold of enlightenment, and the last lap, Bhagavan, God, gives that person.
Thank you, Swamiji, for all your enlightened talk today, and also the answers for the 3 questions.